welcome back to another episode of Cloudbusters, where we discuss all things cloud. My name is Mallory Beaudreau, and I am your host, and I want to wish you all a very happy new year and 2022. We're back in the home office now for safety reasons, but watch this space because we should have a new studio for you very soon. So look out for that. Now, today we are discussing cloud cost visibility, but specifically when we're looking at a distributed, decentralized organization. Now, for those of you who are already part of the FinOps community, you probably know the importance of collaborating across the entire business to do FinOps well, but that's often easier said than done when you have this distributed business units, these semi-autonomous business units. So you might have a central IT team, but they're actually supporting distributed IT teams that are supporting each of those different businesses. Now that increases the chance of confusion or miscommunication. So that central IT team needs to be creative and really communicate clearly in order to get the best possible results across the entire organization. And I am delighted today to be joined by two very successful FinOps practitioners, I'll call them, from NN Group in the Netherlands. And they're going to talk to us about how they were able to encourage these distributed teams to get clear cloud cost visibility. So I am joined by Micha Vemer, who is a cloud FinOps engineer for the central IT team at NN Group, and Remon van Gijn, who is responsible for cloud migration and cloud TCO for one of those decentralized business units. So gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. Very excited for you to share your story.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, indeed.
Absolutely. Now, let's set the stage. So can you talk to us about how NN Group uses cloud technology, and talk to us about how you used to manage cloud cost back in 2020, a year and a half ago?
About a year ago, actually a little bit more than a year ago, we used Excel sheets, really, and copied over the exports from the cloud, like Azure and AWS. We have used both. And actually our finance people were copying over different Excel sheets. Took a long time, and a very laborious process.
Yeah. Remon, from a decentralized view, did you have any of that, even the spreadsheets?
Yes, obviously. The effect was that, well, whenever there's spreadsheets involved, there's versions involved, versions with comments, which go back to the centralized team. Before you know it, you have a complete workflow with outdated versions going around with people in the mix, because it's not just obviously one decentralized BU. In our case, there are about 18. Not all of them are using the same cloud vendor, so the burden on the central team for that is double. We use two generally. And then whenever there's a BU involved, there's also finance people involved from each BU. So it kind of gets to be an exponential list and an exponential sizing pile of Excel sheets going back and forth, which we need synchronizing. So it's obviously not a very ideal situation, and a very lengthy situation as well, having an impact on the readiness to produce a timely financial reporting structure. But that's indeed back to Micha then.
Yeah. Well, and you can imagine the version control problem around passing a spreadsheet back and forth before you get to a final number. And anyone could miss a step along the way and think they already have the final number, but they don't.
Yeah. And the challenge is also comparing what the native tools from Azure and AWS show and what we finally recharge to the business units. There were disparity in questions about that as well. The big challenge was that we were growing, and like exponential also in our cloud spend. So the Excel sheets eventually didn't work anymore. They just became too big. And actually it was first done by finance, and they said, okay, we can't do this anymore. It's technically too difficult to keep doing this.
Yeah, so the cloud bills themselves are hard to understand. And if you start analyzing them, you kind of get into a rabbit hole often enough, because yeah, they are complex, and when you have different vendors to attend to as well, you need to understand both worlds. But it's a learning process. It's a complete journey which goes hand in hand with the overall cloud adoption journey. And therefore, there is very little historic reference for yourself often to really fall back to, because yeah, your cloud bill is increasing. Yeah, that's not weird. We're migrating, we're building, we're doing all these things, but last month it was XYZ. So yeah, that's true. And then we changed stuff. Yeah, well, if there's something detrimental for a finance person, it's a moving target. So that was really unbearable as well, and we needed to build upon understanding, and we needed to construct a mechanic basically to build forth upon.
So let's talk about that. So it got too big, too unwieldy, and around the end of 2020, NN Group decided to be more systematic. So talk to us about that transition. What did you do, and how did you build that out for these decentralized teams to use?
Yeah, to start out, the finance people really said, okay, this is too much, too big. We can't do this anymore as we have been doing. This then became the task of the cloud engineers teams of both Azure and AWS to well, someone got appointed to do it, as we were more technically minded, and we were able to do it, but again, with the Excel sheets, this was not sustainable. So eventually the function of FinOps engineer was created within the organization, and that took a while, and I actually volunteered to fill that role because it found it a good challenge to get this properly done. We started getting more and more questions about the recharge, about visibility. Okay, so I'm seeing this in Azure or AWS, but I'm getting recharged this. And we just didn't have the visibility. Before, it was once a quarter that people got their recharge and got their visibility into their actual cloud spend. If they didn't use the cloud native tools, like business controllers usually don't look into Azure or AWS to, so they could have asked the engineers, but then they got a different answer than what they got recharged. So big questions. And then we started, when I took it over, I was able to get it to once a month to update cloud spend. But I very much realized that, okay, this is not sustainable. We have to get this done better. First, I even created scripts to interpret the CSV files that came from AWS and Azure. But that also quickly became unsustainable. So in the meantime, while that was still going on, we started looking for a solution.
Indeed. So when we because the whole track basically coming to a point that we said this doesn't work anymore for us. At that point, the Cloud Factory, as it's called within our central group, they indeed started to look around and build a case. So obviously they needed partners in that. The business units themselves, they pitched in, and my business unit was one of the ones that said, okay, we'll go all in with you. We'll support you in this, and we'll support building a track, and also basically making the business case for it, and doing a selection period. So that's where Micha, I think, took the reins together with our head of Cloud Factory. to really do a selection process, which was quite fast. Happy enough about that, and together with the BUs, yeah, I can say we were pretty adamant to get to a conclusion and to actually land the tool. And in the end, yeah, we landed on Cloudability in our case.
Yep. I think we started with about 10 different vendors that had solutions in this space, more visibility into cloud spend, and that in real time. We had a long list of things that we wanted to see from a solution. And indeed, so as Remon said, we eventually ended up with Cloudability, which we're very happy with, and a very quick implementation as well. Once the contract was signed in October, we got to recharging from 2021. So the 1st of January was the first official day Cloudability was leading for the recharge. So yeah, that was very quick, and very happy about that process.
Yeah, it was important for us to really get quickly to a baseline, to start building the trust and the understanding inside the cloud bill. Like I said before, like we're learning and we have to build upon that, and being able to understand the baseline and also starting to flush out any anomalies for us in the reporting tools that we had in the chain, because still finance wouldn't be, going check out this underlying tool daily. But we would be able to feed the data process with the reporting from the tools, coming from the different cloud vendors, but then flush out things like exchange rates, flush out things like, is it with or without tax? In our case, the two, apply the exchange rates at the tax, it nearly comes down to the same number. Luckily enough in some cases for, your head calculations, but finance isn't really, into the head calculations. They want it down to the two decimals. So we had a lot of flushing to do, flushing out those weeds into the process to really make explicit what's with tax, what's without tax, what's in US dollar, what's with euro. Then again, we are an insurance company, and Micha has done a great job telling everybody exactly what tax what tax number we have to apply, because generic in the Netherlands, everybody says, well, 21% on top, but it's actually an more exact number because we're an insurance company. And those little things, they really disrupted our chain going forward, because the numbers just didn't add up. So yeah, that's really Micha's doing and his group doing from enabling it. But the basis of it is understanding the data right and being able to trust the data. And yeah, we were there at early 2021.
Yeah, and it goes into a different part of FinOps to show the data and build that trust, because there was no trust at all. There's a lot of questions, and that was also good to see, and I really like to see that trust was returning, that business units were able to, okay, so the numbers I see in Cloudability are matching what I get recharged. Obviously, because we are recharging from the same tool, and we could explain if there were any differences between what they saw in Azure or AWS, we could explain why these differences were there, and we couldn't before, and that's the key.
So important. Yeah. Now, you did something very clever during onboarding to support people coming in and using a tool for the first time. Tell us about what you did in terms of the resources you gave people to start using something new.
Yeah, so we selected a few business units, including that of Remon, that were large spenders, but also some smaller ones that, to have more, a mix of both, and actually said, okay, we have some basic onboarding videos here created by the vendor. actually together with the vendor, we created onboarding videos, and then let them go, see what the vendor and ourselves, we provided some basic dashboards and reports, templates, but then after that, and let them see what they could do with it, and they provided feedback, and we adjusted some things, but yeah, basically everything was there.
Yeah. And I loved that you did it by persona, because what your finance team needs is different than the business controller, which is different from your engineers. Yeah,
yeah, indeed. We indeed identify some different roles, like you said, that we wanted to, the engineers, but also the finance and everything in between.
Yeah. Remon, as the consumer of those resources, what was that like for your business unit?
For us, it enabled us pretty quickly to onboard, and well, the BU was quite a first. How do you say that? The first customer for this process. So we contributed in building those personas as well, or reviewing them at least, and adding the videos from our side. So when we had that complete, so we did both. So we utilized both the central resources for it as a foundation, as a layer, and we've built on top of it with making a custom introduction for our own customers within the business unit. So essentially enriching those sets of videos for the things that we found most important. But that was easy because there was already a minimum viable product, so to speak, to really build upon. And that actually allowed us in the business units to accelerate, which is, well, it's not the daily business of our business users and product owners to allow, wake up in the morning and let's check out the tool, what we did yesterday. So it's a constant flow of addressing them and say, hey, what's your state? Are you in control? But then having the answers as well, because they will come back to you and say, well, I don't know how to use this tool, or what's ready for me. So, well, actually, there is this video, watch it 10 minutes of your time, and then you're set up, ready to go. And we have these dashboards for you to go check out and customize it for yourself. So, well, obviously, we were a bit forward looking. So we proactively onboarded all these people. So they got also emails, which they didn't understand at first, and then slowly they got into the mode. Also because they wanted to understand what they were seeing, so that was good.
So, gentlemen, what's your advice to other organizations who have the same kind of distributed, decentralized model? What's your advice to them as they consider more systematic, better cloud cost visibility?
I have some ideas, but Micha, you want to go first? you were in the eye of the storms.
Yeah. Involve your customers, but take them with you on this journey, because else if you do it on your own and it is a product of your own, a service of your own, then you don't get the buy-in, or you don't get the same feedback as if you involve those customers. They really need to be invested in it as well. Of course, they had how do you say that?
A stake?
Yeah, a stake, or they because they then have also some ownership in the product, in the service that we deliver, that's really important for this.
Yeah. In our structure, it's generally the CIO office who is part of the chargeback organization. So all the chargeback goes via the CIO organization, and the CIO office in each of our BUs essentially gets the bill. So when we get that, it's often the business who is slightly detached from that direct invoicing. So it's on the BU level that we have to make the connection between what CIO gets charged and how that actually translates to a business and to the product owners themselves. So when we had the tool in place, we could actually start promoting that ownership. So ownership in cloud is essentially a key element, right? There are a few key cornerstones which you need to have in place to have a healthy ecosystem building your cloud journey. Recharging and having good insight in your cost is very important, because the cloud, being as fluent as it is and as flexible as it is, you can go left to right with your spend, which is an enormous power, which we obviously like to promote very much to the business in order to excel, in order to be agile, to adjust to circumstances, or to essentially make a hard left or a hard right in their decision-making process. But it comes with the need to be in control and know what you're spending. It has very little use on a finance level to do very quick decisions left and right, but leave everything running as it is. You also have to take charge of your cloud bill. You have to take charge of your infrastructure, and we actively promote that ownership. So we were not able to promote that ownership on the financial side because we couldn't give them the insight as well, what their changes of mind or what their strategy change meant. And with the tool, we have those abilities. I'll be the first one to say where we still have at least some miles to go to really be in the end state of what's really truly the best, and etc. But we've come a long way, as in the sense that we are able to show the customers exactly what they are spending, so they have the insight, and so they can actually do the steps to save and to make healthy decisions. All that data is there, and it's actually available for them as well, and that was really important for us to get into that state right now, that middle state more or less, while we essentially work on the next steps.
Yeah.
Well, let's conclude with that. What are the next steps, and where is NN Group going on its FinOps journey?
Well, going forward, but Micha, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, just I want to emphasize one thing that made my job first a little bit easier. Before I started with FinOps at NN, NN has been in the cloud since 2015 and has restarted one or two times before I became FinOps. And before, they were relying on tags, and even before, when I started as FinOps, they finally started as well recharging based on account level. So the tag is the wrong word, but associate each account with a cost center instead of relying on the tags. Each account is then assigned to a business unit, to a cost center, and that makes my life even since the beginning much easier. The implementation was lacking because the huge Excel files, but the basis was there, and I could build on that. So it was then easy to show and to build around on top of that. Cloudability was easy to configure because of that. And for the future of FinOps, we will be, there's a lot more training and information to be disseminated to all the business units. And helping also still we have business units that need to be onboarded or are starting in cloud, and they are being helped as well. Also, our monthly tasks are more automated. Yeah, so with that, we are going into the next phase of FinOps. right? So the operate phase, and that's that's our goal right now.
Yeah, I'd agree. So referring back to all the nice steps in the books, etc., in the literature, we're at a sturdy pace. We're at a good stroll, a good walking pace. Here and there we slow down because we're just not there yet. We didn't get the automation in place the way we want. In other places, we're actually having a brisk sprint. Because it's working and we have our recharging done right. We have a process to handle anomalies as well in it, and credits, for instance, which always rock the boat a bit. Micha knows that we're good at throwing him some of those here and there.
Of course,
but the process needs to be able to deal with it, and it does. And we're getting into a place now where we are able to say, okay, this is our cloud bill as a business unit, and it has an actual breakdown as well, and then it refers back to the tooling for more analysis, etc. So that's exactly where we want. So for us, the next steps are going to be looking at optimizations more and automations on optimizations more. So where we have the things like reserved instances right now, which are more or less we're shooting at the big fish and the whales, etc. in our usage landscape. There are a million smaller fish out there which we need to catch, and the only place we can do that is in a central location. So by having and employing a strategy and figuring that strategy out, and then automating it as well for that, we think we can actually make some big steps forward still. And that will be good. Like last time we contacted CIO and said, okay, how about we save you 300K or whatever? Do you like that? The general answer is yes. But yeah, there's of course a price to pay for that in manpower or attention to details. So that's where we're headed next: automation of some of those savings, and building forth on the trust base that we have built, and that generally does excite finance as well. And I think that's an accomplishment by itself.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, congrats on your progress so far. It's a great example of how you can bring people together. I love what you were saying, Micha, about consult with your stakeholders, really include them in that process. And hopefully we can bring you on later on to see how you progressed through that optimize and operate phases of the FinOps journey. So thank you both so much for joining me today and sharing where you've gone or how far you've come so far. And thank you also to everyone for listening and watching this episode. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can of course leave comments on our LinkedIn group. And you are also welcome to contact us directly at cloudbusters@apptio.com. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing everyone on a future episode.